Last month, a judge issued a temporary restraining order blocking her from making those appointments without approval from trustees.
I am about to address some things as the supervisor. There will be no comments, there will be anything, it'll just be me addressing you guys to tell you what's...
Get ready for a wild ride as we step into the world of Dalton, Illinois, where chaos, drama, and sheer absurdity are about to unfold. Meet M4 Tiffany Henyard, the first female mayor of this small town. A woman who is not only breaking barriers but also shattering expectations in the most unexpected ways. Henyard is at the heart of a political scandal so outlandish, so implausible, that it could be straight out of a fiction novel. But make no mistake, this isn't some made-up story. It's the kind of scandal that makes you question everything you thought you knew about politics, small towns, and the lengths some will go to for power. You probably haven't heard of Dalton, Illinois. But after hearing what's been going on under Mayor Henyard's leadership, you're going to want to know all the juicy details. So buckle up. It's time to dive deep into one of the most ridiculous political sagas you've never imagined.
Investigator, I've got some books here. Inside I have from the United States District Court.
Despite being engulfed in multiple investigations, facing serious allegations of missing public funds, and enduring a barrage of accusations that threaten to irreparably tarnish her reputation, Tiffany Henyard has made a bold and shocking announcement. She intends to run for re-election as mayor of Dalton. Yes, you heard that right. Re-election. Many are left questioning why someone so deeply embroiled in controversy, with a track record of financial mismanagement and questionable practices, would choose to continue pursuing a political career under such intense scrutiny. To grasp the gravity of this decision, we must first look back at Henyard's swift and meteoric rise to power. When Tiffany Henyard became the first woman to serve as mayor of Dalton in 2021, it was seen as a historic milestone for the small village just south of Chicago. For a community hungry for change, it represented a moment of hope, a new era marked by promises of transparency, reform, and a better future. Henyard's platform, focused on transparency, tackling corruption, and improving the quality of life for Dalton's residents, resonated with voters who were disillusioned by the old political guard. The town seemed poised for transformation under Henyard's leadership, and many believed the future was bright. But the optimism surrounding Henyard's administration was short-lived. As her tenure progressed, cracks began to show in the foundation she had worked so hard to build. The ambitious goals and promises that initially sparked hope were overshadowed by mounting concerns over her leadership. Allegations of financial mismanagement began to surface, including suspicions of missing public funds and improper allocation of taxpayer dollars. These revelations sparked outrage among residents and led to a cascade of investigations. What had once been a hopeful administration quickly descended into a public relations nightmare, with Henyard's administration now under intense scrutiny for unaccounted-for spending, questionable financial dealings, and neglecting critical areas such as insurance and senior services. As if the financial turmoil weren't enough, Henyard's contentious behavior and refusal to accept responsibility for the growing crisis only made matters worse. She alienated herself from both the public and political insiders, further eroding the trust that had initially supported her rise to office. Once hailed as a beacon of change, Henyard was now viewed by many as a leader in over her head. Legal battles compounded the situation, with Henyard filing multiple lawsuits, including one challenging her removal from the Thornton Township Democratic ballot after a crushing defeat in the Democratic caucus in December. This only reinforced her critics' perception that Henyard was more interested in preserving her political career than serving the very people who had voted her into office. To add fuel to the fire, Henyard's personal financial issues also began to surface. Allegations of unpaid rent and legal disputes with her landlord made it appear as though both her personal and professional worlds were in utter disarray. Despite this, Henyard has chosen to press forward, defying expectations and announcing her intention to run for re-election, a move that many view as baffling. In the face of multiple investigations, increasing public dissatisfaction, and a political career that seems to be hanging by a thread, why would Henyard choose to pursue another term as mayor? On one hand, her decision might be seen as sheer audacity, an unyielding will to fight for her political survival regardless of the fallout. Throughout history, political leaders facing scandal often make a comeback attempt, hoping to turn the tide in their favor and regain public support. Henyard may believe that she can rally voters by framing herself as a resilient figure, someone who has weathered adversity and emerged stronger. Her narrative could focus on the obstacles she has faced, using them as a way to connect with constituents who view her struggles as indicative of the systemic challenges facing the town. On the other hand, some might argue that Henyard's re-election bid is a last-ditch effort to secure her future. With critics closing in from all sides and the prospect of her career hanging in the balance, running for re-election may be her only shot at redemption. By re-entering the race, Henyard might hope to clear her name, rebuild her credibility, and ultimately preserve her political career. In this light, her decision could be seen as a strategic move, a way to frame her controversies not as personal failings, but as the result of external pressures, poor circumstances, and larger systemic issues that were beyond her control. Her re-election bid comes at a time when Dolton itself is mired in financial disarray and political gridlock. Key programs designed to support vulnerable populations, such as seniors and low-income families, have been put on hold due to mismanagement, leading to increased frustration within the community. Critics argue that Henyard has neglected these critical services, exacerbating the challenges faced by those who need assistance the most. Yet, despite these significant failures, Henyard may see her re-election campaign as an opportunity to overcome these setbacks, reframe the narrative, and forge a new chapter in her political story. Whatever the underlying motivation for her decision, Henyard's announcement to run for re-election signals one thing: she is undeterred. In the face of relentless criticism, mounting investigations, and a public that seems ready to turn against her, she remains determined to stand firm and fight for a second term. Whether it's pure hubris, a desperate attempt to salvage her career, or a carefully calculated strategy to rebuild her credibility, one thing is certain: Tiffany Henyard is not going down without a fight.
Administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
From the very beginning of her tenure, Tiffany Henyard's leadership style was called into question. Trustees, residents, and even former allies accused her of running Dolton like a personal fiefdom. Decisions were made behind closed doors, with little transparency or input from the public. Perhaps most troubling of all, Henyard faced widespread criticism for recklessly spending taxpayer money, as if it were monopoly cash. By 2022, just a year into her term, dissatisfaction among voters reached a boiling point. The result? A rare recall effort that succeeded in removing her from office. Dolton residents, fed up with her leadership, voted to oust her. But Henyard wasn't ready to bow out just yet. True to form, Henyard fought back. She took the recall decision to court, and in a stunning twist, managed to convince the Illinois Appellate Court to throw out the recall votes, effectively giving her another shot at the office she had narrowly lost. Just like that, she was back in power, acting as though nothing had happened. For many, this dramatic turn of events sparked questions about Henyard's tenacity, or some might say, her defiance. Rather than taking the step back after such a close call, she doubled down on her controversial approach. Unfortunately, the situation only continued to spiral out of control. If anyone had hoped that Henyard would use this second chance to reassess her leadership style, repair damaged relationships, or tone down her aggressive tactics, they were sorely mistaken. Her behavior only drew sharper criticism as tensions in Dolton mounted, and new scandals seemed to emerge on a regular basis. The breaking point came earlier this year when the FBI arrived at Dolton Village Hall. This wasn't a courtesy visit or a routine inspection. They were there to investigate the village's financial records, and what they uncovered was nothing short of damning. The FBI's involvement signaled that something far more serious was at play with the management of taxpayer dollars. The investigation only deepened the questions surrounding Henyard's administration. Financial irregularities, mishandling of funds, and questionable practices had already marred her leadership. Now, with federal authorities looking into the situation, the allegations of incompetence and corruption had taken on a much more serious tone. Henyard's controversial leadership had clearly captured the attention of federal investigators, and with the ongoing probes, the future of her administration. and her political career was an even greater uncertainty. Far from silencing her critics, these developments only fueled the flames of discontent within Dolton. Residents and trustees alike watched with growing concern as more and more questions emerged about what might be uncovered next. Instead of presenting herself as a leader working in service of the community, Henyard had become increasingly isolated. Public trust was rapidly eroding, and frustration was mounting with each passing day. Despite the mounting pressure, however, Henyard remained undeterred. Her relentless, unapologetic drive to maintain her grip on power became one of the defining traits of her tenure. But this defiance may very well be her downfall, as it risks further alienating the very people she was elected to serve. With the shadow of an FBI investigation looming over her, the already turbulent political landscape of Dolton is poised to become even more volatile. The question now is whether Henyard can survive the storm she's created, or if this marks the final chapter in a political career defined by defiance, controversy, and increasingly reckless leadership.
My veto. So I got 7 vetoes here.
Tiffany Henyard's time as mayor of Dolton has been marked by escalating controversy and serious allegations that have placed her leadership under intense scrutiny. At the heart of the growing storm are accusations of financial mismanagement and unethical conduct, particularly regarding her use of public funds for extravagant personal expenses. Rather than upholding principles of fiscal responsibility and transparency, Henyard appears to have indulged in questionable spending practices that have sparked outrage and raised suspicions across the community. One of the most shocking revelations involves Henyard's alleged use of tens of thousands of dollars in taxpayer money for a personal Amazon shopping spree, an expense that, according to reports, Dolton residents unknowingly funded. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. Perhaps even more audacious, Henyard reportedly hosted a lavish Christmas party at the taxpayers' expense, with R&B singer Keith Wyatt and rapper Jay Holiday headlining the event. The total cost for the party exceeded a staggering $85,000, all covered by village funds. Given that Henyard's mayoral salary is far from sufficient to cover such a grand celebration, the question on many residents' minds is how she justified such an extravagant use of taxpayer money. Critics argue that this represents a blatant misuse of public funds and highlights a clear disconnect between Henyard's priorities and the needs of her constituents. However, these lavish expenditures are just the beginning of a much deeper investigation. The FBI has now become involved, probing into allegations of misconduct that extend well beyond Henyard's personal shopping sprees or festive spending sprees. The investigation centers on Henyard's potential involvement in awarding public contracts to businesses owned by her friends and family, bypassing legal channels and violating standard practices meant to ensure fairness in government dealings. This alleged favoritism in awarding contracts has raised serious concerns about Henyard's governance, especially given her campaign promises of transparency and ethical leadership. Even more troubling, the FBI is investigating claims of bribery, with reports suggesting that Henyard may have accepted financial kickbacks from local contractors in exchange for favorable treatment in contract awards. If true, these allegations paint a grim picture of a mayor using her power to enrich herself and her allies, all while the public bears the burden of a corrupt system. This is not the stuff of political fiction. It is happening right now in a small, overlooked town in Illinois, where residents who once hoped for better leadership are now confronting the painful reality of rampant mismanagement and abuse of power. Despite the severity of these allegations, Henyard has shown no signs of slowing down. Instead of reconsidering her approach or stepping aside to reflect on the damage done, she has doubled down, defying the growing tide of criticism. When a recall effort was initiated in 2022 due to widespread voter dissatisfaction, Henyard turned the situation around in a stunning move. She took the recall vote to court and managed to persuade the Illinois Appellate Court to void the results, effectively returning her to office as though nothing had happened. This legal victory only deepened the fractures in Dolton's political landscape, as her return to power did nothing to quell the scandals swirling around her. In many ways, her second term has only worsened the situation. The rift between Henyard and her critics has widened, and as one crisis after another unfolded, it became clear that Dolton was in desperate need of leadership. Instead of offering solutions or working for the good of the community, Henyard seemed more focused on maintaining her position and shielding herself from the mounting scrutiny. The ongoing FBI investigation into the misuse of Dalton's resources has only added to the sense of impending reckoning. As authorities dig deeper, it has become increasingly evident that the scope of the alleged corruption is much broader than anyone initially thought. Far from dampening the scandal, Henyard's persistence in office, coupled with the mounting legal challenges, has only fueled public resentment. Her refusal to acknowledge the severity of the situation has left many of the people who once supported her now viewing her as a liability rather than a leader. As the pressure continues to mount, the future of Henyard's political career seems more uncertain than ever. The once promising leader who made history as Dalton's first female mayor now finds herself at the center of a storm that threatens to consume her and the town she was elected to serve.
Good day, huh? Alright. I guess anything else? I get sued all the time. Y'all.
Amid the swirling chaos surrounding her political career, Tiffany Henyard remains resolute, doubling down on her efforts to hold on to power despite mounting legal challenges and growing public criticism. In an astonishing display of defiance, Henyard has flagrantly ignored court orders, continuing to make significant appointments without the necessary approval from the village board. Earlier this year, a judge ruled that she was barred from filling key positions, such as police chief and village attorney, due to her failure to seek proper board consent. However, undeterred by the ruling, Henyard pressed on, attempting to bypass the law and make these appointments anyway, leading to yet another legal showdown. This blatant disregard for authority has only deepened the sense of dysfunction in Dalton. Henyard has framed the entire situation as an orchestrated attack by the trustees, further escalating the political drama and increasing tensions between her and the governing body. As if the legal battles weren't enough, Henyard's personal life has also come under intense scrutiny, adding another layer of complexity to an already volatile situation. Recently, rumors about her relationship with a man who has become a central figure in both her personal and professional turmoil gained widespread attention. In an unbelievable twist, this man, her own boyfriend, took the stand against her, providing testimony that has rocked the very foundations of her defense. He exposed Henyard's alleged misuse of public funds, revealing how she allegedly used village resources to fund vacations, luxury dinners, and other extravagant personal expenses. The betrayal is staggering, with Henyard's boyfriend divulging intimate details of their conversations, where they allegedly discussed how to use taxpayer money for personal indulgences. This shocking revelation adds a whole new layer of scandal to Henyard's already tarnished reputation. The collision of her personal and political worlds has created a spectacle that has left both her supporters and detractors in disbelief. The once promising mayor, who rose to power with hopes of bringing change to Dalton, now finds herself at the center of a multifaceted crisis involving the misuse of public funds and personal betrayals. As the drama unfolds in real time for the public to witness, Henyard continues to assert her power in the face of mounting pressure. However, it's becoming increasingly clear that her political future is hanging by a thread, with the village of Dalton caught in the crossfire of a saga that grows more bizarre with each passing day.
Very appreciative to have received the information today. We have the best mayor ever. I've been here since 1990.
Given the mounting legal troubles and ethical concerns surrounding Tiffany Henyard, it is nothing short of baffling to many that she is still pushing forward with her re-election campaign. With the FBI investigating her financial dealings, the shocking betrayal by her own boyfriend, and the deteriorating financial state of Dalton, Henyard refuses to bow out gracefully. Instead, she is doubling down on her efforts to cling to power, employing controversial, and some would argue, dubious, tactics to maintain her grip on the community. One of the most significant criticisms of her re-election campaign centers around her alleged use of public events as a means of gathering voter data for future manipulation. Events that are presented as community-building efforts, such as Christmas toy giveaways and Halloween parties, may initially seem harmless, even charitable. However, critics argue that there is a deeper, more calculated agenda at play. In order to participate in these feel-good activities, residents are required to register, handing over their personal information, including phone numbers, addresses, and other identifying details. The concern is that Henyard is using these events to amass a database of potential voters, which could then be leveraged to influence future elections. Essentially, she is using taxpayer-funded resources under the guise of public service to build a loyal voter base, capitalizing on the goodwill of the community during the holiday season. This tactic, many argue, amounts to a cynical and manipulative effort to secure political advantage, all while exploiting the public's desire for festive, community-oriented events. As the allegations surrounding her campaign tactics grow, Henyard has remained largely unfazed, continuing her re-election bid with little regard for the ethical implications of her actions. It's as if for her, this campaign is simply another chapter in the cutthroat world of politics, a world where business-as-usual strategies are deployed, even when the integrity of the process is in question. Meanwhile, the community of Dolton continues to grapple with the fallout from her leadership. The town is still reeling from the financial mismanagement, scandal, and legal entanglements that have plagued her tenure. Yet Henyard seems resolutely determined to maintain her political standing. With each passing day, however, it becomes increasingly clear that her reputation is irreparably damaged. The question on many minds is whether her refusal to step down or adjust her approach is driven by pure political ambition, or whether she simply believes that she can weather the storm and somehow emerge unscathed.
Firm, we made sure they had won, and we also told our board to come upstairs due to the fact they had several ways to exit out of.
Tiffany Henyard's re-election campaign has become a turbulent saga of legal troubles, political maneuvering, and public controversy, making it impossible to ignore the chaos unfolding in Dolton. Amid accusations of misusing public funds and an ongoing FBI investigation into her financial dealings, Henyard seems resolute in clinging to power, regardless of the undeniable fallout from her leadership. One of the most contentious aspects of her re-election bid is her use of public events, such as Christmas toy giveaways and Halloween parties, as tools for gathering personal information from residents. These events, which require participants to register with their phone numbers, addresses, and other private details, have raised alarms among many who suspect Henyard is exploiting them not just for goodwill, but to build a voter database that could be leveraged to her advantage. Critics argue this strategy is manipulative, breaching the public's trust as the town grapples with a staggering financial deficit exceeding $3 million. Despite mounting scrutiny over her handling of the village's finances, Henyard appears more focused on securing her re-election than addressing the financial crisis she has contributed to. As public outrage grows, she has adopted the stance of a victim, claiming that the accusations against her are part of a politically motivated smear campaign orchestrated by her rivals. Henyard continues to rally her shrinking base with messages like, "If God is for us, who can be against us?" portraying herself as an underdog fighting back against unfair attacks. However, as new details of her actions surface, her support continues to erode, with former allies and even village trustees distancing themselves from her. An audit led by former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot uncovered millions of dollars in missing receipts and raised serious concerns about Henyard's management of village funds. Despite these alarming findings, Henyard has pressed forward with her campaign, determined to muddy the waters and frame herself as the victim of a broader conspiracy. Whether this strategy will succeed remains uncertain, but the pressure on her is mounting. Henyard's legal battles have intensified as she has filed lawsuits against the village trustees and the Dolton Park District, accusing them of holding illegal meetings outside Village Hall and undermining her authority. This power struggle has paralyzed the village, as infighting among trustees has made it nearly impossible to govern effectively. Trustees like Andrew Holmes, once a staunch ally, now face increasing scrutiny over their role in shielding Henyard from accountability, while others, like Stan Brown, remain ambivalent, seemingly trying to play both sides of the political divide. As Dolton faces unprecedented dysfunction, residents are left questioning Henyard's refusal to step down. Some see her decision to run for re-election as a way to avoid the appearance of guilt, suggesting that stepping away would acknowledge the accusations against her. With mounting legal challenges and a rapidly shrinking support base, Henyard's path forward is fraught with uncertainty. Yet, despite the growing public resentment, she appears determined to fight on, viewing re-election as her last opportunity to salvage her political career. As the situation continues to spiral, the future of Dolton remains in limbo. Henyard's legal and political battles are creating a storm that leaves the village in a state of chaos. Citizens are left wondering how much longer they can endure the dysfunction before demanding real change. Will Henyard's controversial strategy of leveraging public events and building a voter database help her secure victory, or will her growing web of legal troubles finally catch up with her? Only time will tell. But one thing is clear: the political drama in Dolton is far from over, and the road ahead promises to be a rocky one.